guest out. He is one of the funniest men on the planet. He's also a lovely guy. It's Mr. David Walliams. Here he is.
Thank you for having me on.
It's lovely to have you. Come and sit down. Get yourself coffee. I'm great. And you know why I'm feeling very relaxed and happy? Because I've had you on before and you're one of my dream guests.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you're funny, but you're also smart and you've done so much with your life in a comparatively short space of time that it's easy to talk to you.
I'm 21. So that's a lot in.
21 on each side. David has a book out. It's just out now. You may well have seen some of the stories. It's been already reported in various newspapers. Certain things have been picked up on in particular. It's called Camp David.
Funny about that.
and there are a lot of surprises in it. Perhaps the biggest surprise is you are straight.
Which I didn't know till I read the book.
But you do talk about in there actually questioning yourself and wondering whether you were straight or gay, which path you were going to take in life, or which path was predestined for you.
Yes. Well, let's start with that. Well, I didn't have a girlfriend till I was like 21.
But that is not, I mean, because you weren't necessarily a kind of an outgoing guy, were you? You were sort of, not nerdy is the wrong word, but you were a stay-at-home kind of person.
Yes, I wasn't very outgoing, really quite shy as well. So I think this exhibitionism probably masked the shyness.
So when you were young, you couldn't do this, and now you do it perhaps a little too much.
Too much, yeah. No, but the book is very honest, and you know, I've read lots of my friends' autobiographies. Russell Brand, do you know Russell Brand?
No.
James Corden.
I know him.
Rob Brydon.
Yeah.
So I read, you know, all those books, and I think, you know, the best parts of all those books are when people are being completely and utterly honest. And if you're very truthful and you make yourself very vulnerable, I think that can only be a good thing.
I mean, you call it Camp David, you said, but you were quite camp as a youngster. You always were, what's the word, flouncy, or you liked performing in that kind of way, didn't you?
Well, when I was in junior school, there's a very popular programme on called Wonder Woman. And I used to play Wonder Woman in the playground. Because she had a little... May I? Listen?
Please, just see.
Because when she would change into Wonder Woman, do-do-do, like that.
Yeah. You've got the little everything.
And I used to play Wonder Woman. I didn't think anything of it, because when you're young, and I was at an all-boys school, really up to the age of 16, you know, you don't really realise...
Well, there's a picture of you there looking...
looking pretty hot.
Well, we should point out to younger viewers, these were the days before Photoshop, so you couldn't do anything about it.
I was in the CCF.
What's the CCF?
The Combined Cadet Force that you have at some schools.
That's so it's like a kind of naval thing.
Well, no, you get to choose between Army, Air Force and Navy. What do you think I chose?
Hello, sailor?
Correct. Because I thought it would be a good opportunity to camp about, and I was right.
But didn't you get in trouble for your camping about in this naval cadets?
I did, because I looked at all my old school reports, so there were lots saying, you know, I was being, you know, too disruptive. But yes, I did get told off for not taking that seriously.
Something about your marching.
I can't help the way I march. Well, no, because it was all sort of...
Regiment.
There was lots of sort of standing around, and it's easy just to do something. Just to make it. And then when you have to march, it's easy just to go...
That's pretty good.
Because at that point, I was just desperate for any opportunity to perform.
And so, did you not think as a kid, though, that you could go into performing? Because you obviously were finding opportunities in areas which weren't legitimate.
Yes, and that's why I was probably very annoying.
Yeah.
Because someone who constantly is seeking attention is actually quite annoying, even if they are a little bit entertaining.
How did you then go from being, by your own words there, slightly irritating occasionally, desperate to perform, camp, but enjoying the attention? How did you go from just being that to being someone who understands comedy, writes great comedy, and has made a career of comedy? That's what I think is a lot of people find very interesting and informative, but is the work you put in. Tell us about that journey.
Well, it's a long journey, but I think the most important part of it, and the reason I'm here today, is because of Matt Lucas. Meeting Matt Lucas is a comedy genius, and so I met him in 1990, and that's really, I think, when I kind of really realised what I wanted to do, because I wanted to work with him, and we formed this great double act. But it was a long journey through writing for children's TV. One of my first jobs was writing for Ant and Dec. they had a show.
We have a picture of you here with Ant and Dec, and you won't believe how young David is, but look at Ant and Dec, you forget.
They're so sweet.
Did they not have any child labour laws in the north of England?
But at the time when I first met them, because you know people say can't tell them apart, so I had a thing in my head, so it's Hand and Dec. The one wearing a hat is Hant or equals Ant. Hat and Ant equals Hand and Dec. But now Ant doesn't wear the hat, so it's very hard.
Very difficult for you.
Apart.
I just remembered that they have different faces.
They do.
But they are lovely. They are.
I
must
loved
have enjoyed
them.
working
I
with
loved working with them, but I used to really. I was quite naughty in the script meetings because I used to. I was kind of bored sometimes, and to amuse them, I would just draw obscene drawings on the scripts and then pass them to them. And this is carried on to this day. Recently, we were all staying in the same hotel in Los Angeles, and I was passing obscene pictures under Ant's door, and then he started passing obscene ones under mine. And I've got a framed picture at home that Ant draw.
What's on it? What is
it?
it?
Well, me, Ant, and Dec with all huge erections.
Wow.
How much would that be worth in years to come?
You know what? It doesn't sound to me like that's joking so much as a cry for help.
From me or them?
I think from all three of you. You're very honest in the book about, and this is the thing that people have picked up on in the papers, about the periods of depression you've had. And I was amazed when I read that, because I knew that you'd had some ups and downs, like everyone did, and I knew you'd had some upsetting times, because I haven't known you for that long, really. I mean, what, 10 years, I guess. And even though I knew you'd gone through some upsetting times, I didn't know that they had affected you quite as deeply and quite as gravely, as is clear from reading your book now. How comfortable are you with that being out there? And did you have to... Were there people in your life who weren't aware of that to that extent yet, or were there...
Well, there are things
surprised?
in this book that I hadn't told anybody. But I kept a diary through a lot of my adult life, so I had a very, accurate account of how I was thinking and feeling at that time. But I thought... but even through just the book being in newspapers, I've had a terrific response from the public and friends and people who say, yes, I've been through this, or I know someone who's been through this. So, I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. It's just because it's mental health. People are uncomfortable with it. If I was talking about dealing with a, physical disease, I think it would be seen differently. But I just think, why would you agree to do a book unless you were going to be honest in it? But the onus is not on you to do that because you can see a lot of people have got books out and they're just, words on a page.
When you were writing those sections, though, and obviously you had your diary to go back to, and in one section of the book, there's the diary that kind of kicks off a period of upset that leads to a deep depression. Was it difficult for you to re-experience it in that way?
It was, because of course you remember all these things that happen in your life, but when you're trying to write it down to communicate it to other people, you really have to think about, you have to set the scene and everything. So at times I was writing the book and I was in tears at things that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But, everyone's life has, pain in it, and I do too, and I'm just giving an honest account of it.
You're obviously quite adept at compartmentalising those kind of things, or you were then. You kept it away from some people, or, maybe you wanted other people to know, but I mean, I know there's one instance where your mum comes to you after you've been in hospital and says, you must promise never to do this again. And the fact she didn't know you were heading towards that. Are you more open now with your feelings with those around you? I mean, your life is very different anyway.
Yeah,
but...
I think I'm in a much happier place, and also, I didn't have a long-term partner, and now I'm married, and now, all those things in a day that can upset you, you then take it to your, we've both got, lovely wives, and she's the person that I can immediately talk to. But the thing about depression is that you actually feel very isolated, and that you feel sort of embarrassed to talk to anybody. Because it's such a strange thing that's going on in your head. So it's quite hard to reach out for help.
She's a very beautiful, very lovely... I've met Lara a couple of times. She's a very lovely woman as well. But you ever amazed that you end up with such an attractive wife, David?
Well, every morning I wake up and I look at her and I think, how did that happen?
I love it. The same with me. When I wake up and I see my wife and I still think, why on earth are you still with me? What are...
Well, we all think that.
Ah, OK.
But, no, but it's, I don't know, I mean... It's great that they're not, we didn't have to be that handsome.
Speak for yourself. Presumably you would like to have children together, I imagine?
Yeah, I'd love to have children. I think it's such a great thing, isn't it? And I've seen how you are with your children and what great dad you are, and I think it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? And I think when you've got kids, you stop worrying so much about yourself, because it kind of becomes all about them.
Well, we have two young mums right there who would agree with you, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Best thing in the world.
The expectations you have for your kids are much more than those you have for yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think you kind of want their lives to be everything that maybe you'd wish for yourself or even more. Yeah, certainly. Let's talk about Britain's Got Talent, because obviously that was a big thing that you got involved in, and I think you helped turn the fortunes of that show around. You know, you made it very popular in a way that hadn't been before, perhaps. It'd always been a popular show. And have you agreed to do another series? Is this
I've agreed to do 2 more.
Wow.
But I can't wait. You know, I'm watching The X Factor now, quite jealous I'm not there. Because it's such a load of fun. You can't believe you get paid for it.
Yeah, I bet.
And I saw Simon...
there you are with Simon, and that is quite... Because he's a deeply odd man, of course. And you have well, he is, though, isn't it?
Straight. If he tunes in and sees the 2 of us say that about him, he'll be surprised.
He must know it.
He's an unusual character. But we were in Los Angeles, we were both at a friend's wedding, and I was sort of taking the mickey out of him, and he kept on saying, save it for the show, save it for the show. So I think it's going to be a great series. But I really loved being with him.
Yeah,
it's never a dull moment. And he does laugh at himself a lot, which, well, he has to. But it's great that he does. But we had fun when he was on the show, didn't we? You know.
Well, of course, Stacey, you've encountered Simon as well, of course, haven't you?
Yeah, he's all right.
That's a sane response right there. I very much enjoyed the book.
Oh,
and I'm pleased with it. And you know what? I'm looking forward... So will the next one bring you right up to date, or are you going to stagger it even further?
It'll come up to this moment. What do you say? Jonathan looked at me with desire in his eyes. Little did I know, within minutes we'd be in his dressing room. At it like wild dogs.
David Walliams, ladies and gentlemen. Marvellous. Thank you for giving us a finish.
Thank you.
The fabulous David Walliams. Don't go away, because after the break I'll be chatting with the beautiful Charlotte Church. I'll see you in a minute.